Hello and welcome everyone to the Symantec Endpoint Security. Protect smarter, respond faster, deep dive and walkthrough. Just a bit of housekeeping at the top of the call. Today's webinar is being recorded and your mics have been muted. Please post any questions you have in the webinar Q&A. Today's presentation and deep dive will be delivered by Sherry Nichols, NetX cybersecurity engineer and instructor. And kicking it off today is Sanjay Dixit, Director of Sales West. Take it away, Sanjay.
All right. Thank you so much for attending and spending some time with us to understand about the NetX as well as what we deliver for our customers. So a little bit of background on NetX. NetX has been in business since 1997, 28 years and counting, right? We are an authorized training partner and provide services for all the solutions that we represent. We have been in, three main pillars for our solution. We are a small company, but every solution that we offer to our customers, we have very deep competencies and expertise so that we can write solution, your services to fit your organization's needs. The three big pillars that we offer are data protection, which is basically backup and recovery, disaster recovery, cloud migrations, cloud optimizations, and things like that of your workloads. The second pillar is data governance. Today, because of the ransomware being so prevalent, it is important to protect and manage your unstructured data with a lot of sensitive information in your enterprises from any kind of exfiltration and or malicious attacks against those data. The last pillar that we excel in, which is the topic of today's webinar from us, is the data security. In particular, endpoint protection is something that we have to definitely start with when you are talking about ransomware protection. So that is where we will be focused on. How do we differentiate? As I mentioned, we are the recognized training delivery partner for the solutions that we serve and provide services on. And we also do health checks on all the solutions that we have, especially for the sensitive data analysis is dark data assessment. And some of our services are highlighted here. So before we turn it over to Sherry Nichols to make the presentation on the endpoint security, we wanted to have a small poll conducted, to get a sense of where you are in your journey with regards to the endpoint protection. So with that, please respond to the poll that will show up shortly.
All right. Well, thanks, folks. I'm Sherry Nichols. And for those of you who I haven't had a chance to meet before, I've been working with Symantec Solutions for many years now and have focused primarily on endpoint security, but I've also had experience with the Blue Coat product line since Symantec merged with Blue Coat nearly 10 years ago. So, but today we're focused on protecting smarter, not harder. We're going to, hopefully the agenda is coming through. Let me know if it's not. So we'll introduce what Symantec Endpoint Security is, the benefits, how it very much addresses modern cyber threats, and then I'll take you through a deeper look with a walkthrough. And as I'm going along, because I am a certified technical trainer, I can go very deeply into any of these topics. So I'm gonna do my best to hit things at a fairly high summary level. But if there's anything that you would like to know more about, please let us know again through that Q&A. And as we go through, my team here will be monitoring that and either answering directly or letting me know that there's a question that perhaps would be best answered right here in the presentation. So of course, as Sanjay mentioned, we're all about, it's so important to protect our data. And the very first thing that we can do to protect our users and our data is to protect those endpoints. Because according to Ponemon Institute and other very, very important independent researchers, the vast majority of breaches originate at endpoints. And of course, there have been many challenges with remote work that has certainly expanded the attack surface, and there's certainly a need for proactive security that is incredibly important. We can't just react anymore, it's too late. Certainly, endpoint security provides the initial protections to help ensure that higher layer security controls can be trusted. So one of, as I'm sure you're aware, a very important approach is to have many layers of protection and endpoint security. We can talk about it as being one layer, but in fact, you're going to see with Symantec Endpoint Security, it's actually several layers in and of itself. So Symantec Endpoint Security, we also call it SES sometimes, hopefully not confusing to anybody, but Symantec Endpoint Security does provide unified endpoint protection and endpoint detection and response, EDR. It has AI-driven detection and response and provides a lightweight cloud-native architecture for those that are already resident in the cloud or moving to the cloud. But as I'll mention, there are still options for some hybrid or some on-prem deployments as well. And I've worked with those for many, many years if you have questions on that. All of this, of course, is fed from threat intelligence from Symantec's Global Intelligence Network, or GIN, G-I-N, and that Symantec homegrown Global Intelligence Network doubled in size with the merge with Blue Coat 9 years ago. And so Symantec is one of the largest intelligence networks that is non-military in the entire world. So there is intelligence coming in from proxy secure gateways, endpoints, and various attack sensors around the world. So, it all started with Symantec Endpoint Protection. That you might recall, Symantec Endpoint Protection 11 came out in the end of 2007, went truly live for production environments in 2008, and has just grown in features and functionality since then. It is still alive and well. So for those of you that are concerned about on-prem protection and on-prem servers, we certainly offer that still, but you also have the cloud management capabilities that more and more environments are looking for. So we have the ability to have pure on-prem management, or a mix of on-prem and cloud, or again pure cloud. And we cover Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, laptops, desktops, and servers, but also for the cloud managed environments, we have coverage to provide protections for mobile devices, tablets, including Android, iOS, and also Windows, S Mode, and ARM devices. Here's just a quick kind of summary of giving you a sense of the feature list. I won't go through these here in detail, but you can see basically on the two halves of the slide, there are 6 different categories of features for attack prevention, attack surface reduction, breach prevention, and sorry, that continues to the next slide, response and remediation, and general IT operations. And Symantec Endpoint Protection, which again is the on-prem managed version, does provide several of those important features, but when you move to cloud managed, you get additional protection, especially in the mobile device area. And then with SES Complete, which is truly the topic today and the deep dive we'll be going through today, SES Complete really provides a great deal more, and especially on the response and remediation side, because it does include EDR. So we need to address modern concerns. We have 4 key pillars that make SES Complete truly stand out in what's become a very crowded endpoint protection market. Prevent, to block threats before execution. SES uses advanced techniques like machine learning, file reputation analysis, and sandboxing to identify and prevent malware and brand new exploits from executing in the first place. So it focuses on pre-execution blocking, which shifts your defense posture left and eliminating threats before they become incidents. And of course, that aligns with NIST SP 800-53, which I'm sure the audience here is very aware, puts an emphasis on preventive controls as part of a robust security posture. Another important pillar, of course, is detect, and SES provides that with AI-powered behavioral analysis to detect fileless or living off the land or zero-day threats that are missed by traditional AV. And so it's looking at processes, system activity, and user behavior to identify malicious patterns. And that's important because if something is brand new, then of course a signature can't exist to identify it. But this aligns with modern detection models such as those in the MITRE ATT&CK framework. We'll say more about MITRE a little bit later. Another important pillar is response. So the ability to have automated remediation is incredibly important. There are automated playbooks and adaptive instant response capabilities in SES, so it can isolate infected endpoints. Just think about that. So endpoint is identified as infected, basically extra walls go up, protecting that endpoint from further exploitation, but also preventing it from spreading infection and preventing lateral movement through your network. SES also removes malware and rolls back changes. And again, all this happens without human intervention. That's one of the really core important capabilities. Of course, that's very important for reducing dwell time and get those attackers out of our networks as quickly as possible. Importantly, it minimizes damage and certainly improves your team's mean time to respond significantly. The MTTR stats are very important to a lot of us. And then finally, manage. There's a unified, easy to use dashboard, and as we'll see, there's actually multiple dashboards built in, and you can customize them, or your team can customize them individually to meet their individual needs as they wish, whatever makes them more productive. We also have the ability to manage policies, respond to incidents, and do things like generate compliance reports, all from this one central interface. So SES stands out because it offers a comprehensive, intelligent, and unified approach to endpoint security that combines proactive prevention, context-aware detection, fast and automated response, and simple centralized management. It's not just a security tool, it's an entire strategic platform designed to reduce risk, simplify operations, and enhance resilience. So Symantec Endpoint Security is a foundational solution that facilitates integration. So IT security teams can detect threats anywhere in the network and address these threats with an orchestrated response. So SES can work alongside other Symantec solutions as well as third-party products through dedicated apps, also through published APIs to strengthen your security posture. Some notable integrations include Symantec Cloud Secure Web Gateway. If you're familiar with Blue Coat, of course, there are the on-prem secure gateways, and we have the same capability, purely cloud managed as well. And SES integrates directly with that cloud SWG capability. Also Symantec CASB, Cloud Access Security Broker, using full tunnel direction or the built-in WSS policies. There is integration with semantic validation and ID protection, including multi-factor authentication for things like PIV or CAC smart cards for those that have if we have federal agencies or military folks, you know how important that is for multi-factor authentication in those environments. We have integration with Symantec content analysis, that's dynamic on-prem or cloud sandboxing, and additional threat engines for further analysis of suspicious files that can be submitted from Symantec Endpoint Security. And there is also certainly a great deal of integration capabilities with Symantec Data Loss Prevention, or DLP, originally from the Vontu acquisition. It's been a few years now, but that is still the premium, I would say, the Cadillac of data loss prevention tool sets to prevent data exfiltration of sensitive information by providing real-time threat intelligence of suspicious applications to DLP. The advanced threat prevention capabilities of SES Complete stops attacks before they can execute, even before they're recognized as threats by most security platforms. So the AI analysis blocks threats in real time. There's 0-day protection with machine learning and minimal performance impact. So here's a sampling of PowerShell adaptive protection behaviors, for instance, things like PowerShell injecting into the host process, SVC host, PowerShell launching Java applications, PowerShell launching iKernel, PowerShell accessing the network through HTTP or HTTPS. And so these are some examples of a trusted tool, which is PowerShell, which is very important for a lot of our IT folks in managing the environments, but of course can also be used to do harm. So it's a perfect example of a dual use tool. And with SES Complete, you have adaptive protection available so that it is looking to see what is normal in your environment and then actually tells you, hey, you've got some things going on that aren't normal, or these things you can classify it. So if there are some subsets, like let's say HR or some specific department, maybe you have an R&D department that does make extensive use of PowerShell in ways that can also be used for attacks, that you can have some different protections put around those machines as compared to the rest of your fleet. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I intend to show you some of these and how they can be tuned and how you can turn on automatic tuning, and you can also just preventively block ahead of time. So if you know PowerShell is not supposed to be doing any of these things in your environment, you can just deny without waiting to learn. Minimal performance impact. So SES is engineered for efficiency. Again, it's based on that original SEP client, which has been around for a couple decades now and has had improvements at every single release. So very small footprint and very, very powerful protection. It has consistently scored among the top performers in AV test evaluations, not just for protection, which is incredible, but also for system performance and usability. So it's ideal for both traditional office environments and also modern remote work environments where bandwidth and performance can be so critical. Another benefit, automated detection and response. So SES continuously monitors endpoint activity for suspicious behavior. This detection model is aligned with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, helping map behaviors to known adversary tactics and techniques, and helps ensure that organizations can stay ahead of evolving threats that bypass traditional signature-based tools. There's auto-containment of threats. So once the threat is identified, SES can take immediate automated action. And mentioned this briefly earlier, but one of these can be isolating the endpoint from the network, certainly terminating malicious processes, blocking lateral movement. These are all examples of automated responses that SES is capable of doing. And SES doesn't just stop the threat, it helps you understand how and why it happened. Through behavioral forensics, SES captures detailed telemetry and timelines of the activity that occurs before, during, and after an incident. And that makes it easy to trace the root cause, understand attack paths, and close gaps to prevent recurrence. And this forensic data is enriched with global threat intelligence from the Symantec Gen, remember, and can be queried using built-in tools for fast investigations. Of course, with the cloud-based console, real-time visibility, and secure role-based controls, SES Complete provides a streamlined and scalable way to manage endpoint security without adding complexity to your operations. And this continuous visibility helps teams reduce dwell time, helps teams prioritize threats, and certainly helps organizations demonstrate regulatory alignment. Here's a note about the console screenshot. You'll see there's two tabs shown where you have the option to query the cloud database as well as query the endpoint. And I'll show, again, I'll show these tabs live, but the idea is that the cloud database displays information such as process launches, all suspicious activity that's been reported up by the various endpoints up to the cloud server. Activities related to any process group that has performed suspicious activities, and summaries of network activity. Now, the endpoint search gives information that's above and beyond that, because there is what's called the endpoint recorder, originally called the flight data recorder, in the original Symantec Advanced Threat Protection, or ATP, product that I worked with when I was at Symantec 10 years ago. Very, very cool, as it was just starting out, and it has grown since then. So with the endpoint, with this endpoint data recorder, it is actually logging all the activities on the endpoint, so that if there's an investigation need to get even more details about something that was happening at a particular point in time or within the past week, typically, that you can request a full dump and actually get a copy of that local flight data recorder from that endpoint. So you can see things like each individual DLL loading. You can see things like files being created or modified or deleted. You can see registry key values being created, modified, or deleted, and additional detail in those network connections that were happening at the time. So vast amounts of forensic information. And then rapid deployment and scalability. So it deploys in minutes, scales to thousands, requires very minimal configuration. I cannot stress that enough, because I have worked with a number of endpoint security products over the years, and this is by far the simplest to roll out. That it's actually, when you roll it out with the defaults, it provides extremely good prevention, extremely good protection, more than any other endpoint security product that I'm aware of with those out-of-the-box defaults. And it keeps winning these various awards with those out-of-the-box default policies. So it's extremely good. You don't require admins to go in and make a bunch of adjustments just to make your environment more secure. It's already going to be incredibly secure by installing with those defaults. That said, you do have the ability to tailor the protection in various ways. And so if you need to provide more, locking down of applications, or more scrutiny, just more logging of certain devices in particular departments or on very sensitive networks, you absolutely can do that, but you don't have to. Scaling to thousands, a single domain within a single tenant for SES can scale up to 600,000 endpoints. 600,000, so more than 500,000. And that's a single domain. So I actually don't know any environment. I do know environments that are that large. I have worked with some of them personally, but none of them that I've worked with have had that many in a single domain. And so that's one thing to be aware of. You can have a tenant with more than one domain, which allows you to have a different domain for different business units or different departments in some cases if you're extremely large. But anyway, up to 600,000 just in a single domain. So highly scalable. And it does support hybrid and remote environments. If you need to integrate with on-prem, if you have a SEP manager on-prem because you have a protected network, then that is absolutely okay. And you could choose to manage it independently or integrate it with the cloud server if you want to have things like centralized reporting. So whether you have 50 users or 50,000 or 500,000, SES Complete makes deployment fast, management simple, and endpoint security universally accessible across your entire workforce. So I want to take you on a deeper look, do a walkthrough of the SES Complete console, which I hope is not timed out on me. Oh, good. There we go. All right. Well, so here is a look at the SES Complete console. I did already log in. I do want to point out that you might, depending again on your organization, or if you are yourselves managed service providers, then it's entirely possible that you may have more than one account. So not a problem. You can have various accounts associated with the different deployed products, and then you can manage those independently if you wish. So I've entered into one of my managed environments. Again, as an authorized trainer, I've been asked to do the technical review of all of the SEP administration courses and all of the SES, the Endpoint Security and Endpoint Security Complete courseware since 2008, actually. So just finished reviewing the latest version. So just to say that I have, since I just QA'd the latest SES Complete admin course, I did go through, the built-in labs, and so I actually have some fun data from some fake infections and some fake compromises to show you here, if there's time and interest. All right, so first, just want to mention again, this is that first view. We've talked about dashboards and how important it is to have that, instant view, overall high-level picture of what's happening. So right away, you can see in the top widgets across the top, the threat protection, how many threats were blocked in the last 24 hours, how many suspicious detections, and so forth. You can see your overall agent status, the total number of devices, again, whether that's 50 or 50,000, you'd see it here. The different colors indicate, green is secure, red is compromised, orange is at risk. And so what's really nice too is in this very quick widget here, you can see the top reasons. So the one that is thought to be compromised has an unresolved threat as determined by the anti-malware engine. And then there's one considered at risk because of a medium severity incident. Speaking of incidents, we can see our open incidents KPI says that my lab environment has 6 open incidents currently in total. One of those is high, one is medium, 4 are low. None of these occurred in the past 24 hours, so they're starting to age age a bit because I ran through these on Friday. And then as you scroll down, you would be able to see things like the MITRE attack tactics that have occurred in the last 24 hours, but actually since mine all occurred longer ago than that. I don't have that in this display here, but I have another environment that I'll hope to switch to and show you that. Devices with unresolved threats. We can see the technologies that found those threats. Recent security events. Again, as we can see, a lot of things happened to my little lab environment last week. As we scroll even further, we could see behavioral insights and policy tuning information for adaptive protection. That's one I mentioned earlier, talking about a trusted tool like PowerShell. So what Symantec did was take a whole slew, right? That's the technical term, slew, a whole bunch of trusted tools, and then a whole bunch of not trustworthy behaviors that those tools might be seen doing. And basically, any of these would correspond, if they're found to do one of these items, would correspond to a MITRE attack technique. And so anything that matches the MITRE attack framework should be considered suspicious until investigated and proven otherwise. Don't assume something's benign just because it might be. It needs to be investigated. And so what's great about adaptive protection is it's already taken this whole giant grid of possible poor behaviors being done by trusted tools, so that it'll keep an eye. It'll start learning the environment and see, do any of these naturally occur, or I should say, do any of these occur within the first 90 days of deployment? That's usually a pretty good learning window. And if they are occurring, then that would let you know you need to investigate, but also it could be that there's a legitimate reason. There's a business case for letting those tools do those particular things. And so you'll need to put some exceptions in place before you start blocking in general. But for those where the behavior is found to have 0 prevalence, and it could end up being 492 of these behaviors, might never appear in this environment. So if there's 0 prevalence now in that learning period, then it's extremely unlikely that there's a business case for them to occur. So you can actually just turn on the deny behavior for all 492, and it takes 2 button clicks. And huge amounts of protection against living off the land attacks, where attackers use your dual use tools against you. Continuing further, there's some more widgets like the subversion distribution, the agent, the endpoint security agent can be referred to as the SEP agent or SES agent. It doesn't matter. They're the same core agent. Device management, you could see how many are workstations, how many are servers, mobile, and so forth. OS distribution, again, you could see Linux, things like Linux, Mac, Android, iOS. And then also your usage status. So in this case, I've got 3 devices consuming Symantec Endpoint Security Complete licenses. So that's just one example. That's the default dashboard. There actually are additional built-in dashboards that you can switch to, threat protection, focusing on results from anti-malware and intrusion prevention. We have the security operations focusing on output from the EDR, endpoint detection response. So remember, there's that activity recorder. So it's really good to make sure that recorder is enabled across devices. That recorder, by the way, is 1 gigabyte in size by default, but it can be configured as high as 20 gigabytes, which would give even farther look back capability to high granularity. So 1 gigabyte is roughly a week's worth of activity for a typical workstation. For a server or a really heavily used workstation, it might be as low as 3 days. So if I've got hard drive space, I tend to want to have a larger recorder, and you certainly can do that. On the other hand, if you need to have a smaller recorder for some devices, you can certainly go lower than 1 gigabyte. Again, just recognizing it reduces your look back for pulling in detailed forensics if something goes wrong. So that was a quick look at the dashboards. Another quick thing I wanted to point out on this main page of the SES Complete console, you can go right to the Symantec Protection Bulletin area, see more about the latest, just get the highlights if you need to, or go in and get more details by clicking read more for these various links, and the Threat Landscape Bulletin. Some of us subscribe to that and get that in our inboxes every day. But if you don't wish to do that, you certainly can access it whenever it's convenient to you through the console. And from here as well, I have access to the latest of the Symantec blogs. So on the left-hand side, this is how you navigate to the other pages of the central console. So generally speaking, we start from the home page, and basically any non-zero number is clickable. So if I want to see what were those 2 threats that were blocked, I can actually click this number and it takes me to the discovered items page. In this case, it is 2 particular files that were considered to be very high risk, and so they were blocked. And so these threats were prevented. Anything that is listed in blue is a hyperlink. So you can click that and go to a dedicated page dedicated to details about that particular file in this case. Devices seen on, again, this is a number greater than 0, so that's clickable as well. I could click and drill down to the device that was seen on. If I want to see details, or if I actually just want to take action against this file right now, perhaps I want to say, I'm wondering if this might be a false positive. Well, I can set it to virus total by clicking a button. I could get a copy of the file if I want to download it, a zipped password protected file to detonate in my own local sandbox if I'm a qualified forensic analyst. I could also submit to sandbox. So with SES Complete, you have the ability to manually submit suspicious items to the cloud sandbox at any time, and then see full forensic details of what it was seen to do. Did it try to reach out to a non-allied foreign country? Did it did it create a bunch of processes? Did it kill some processes, especially if it's trying to kill a security process or uninstall a security product, right? We could see all the various suspicious things it does. So again, that's just a quick way of drilling down from home. You can also, for instance, for incidents, a lot of times you want to keep an eye on that. Your investigators should start with those with high priority and work through those. Sometimes eliminating a high priority incident will actually close several related incidents. You can see details, and again, forgive me, I do tend to go into more detail because I teach these topics a lot to folks that are new to the product. But if to actually see the details of the incident, you click on the ID page. You can expand the page. You can assign it. This one has been assigned to Sherry Nichols as the investigator. I can say, okay, yep, I'm starting to investigate this, so I'm going to click Start Progress to show that, yes, I've taken this on and I'm starting to investigate. Across the top, I can see information, how, what the overall severity was, how many endpoints are affected, how many triggering events were there. Is it part of a suspected breach? Because that's very concerning. So in this case, yes, so it meets several concerning criteria. And we can see Symantec's recommended action. Investigate further activity by downloading a full dump of the endpoint's recorded data and give particular attention to activities performed by cmd.exe. And so from right here, I can go into the more actions and make that request, right? I can see that if I'm the investigator, I can see the recommended action and I can do it. I can click on this full dump. That query will go out to that endpoint, even if it's gone through host isolation, because we've configured that we want that automatic isolation if an endpoint is under attack. Be aware that it's not total isolation. We can still reach it from the SES management console, right? That's super important. So sometimes people get worried. Okay, if I isolate it, does that truly mean, I can't get to it? Like, no, SES can still get to it. So we can make that request. We can reach out and say, please give me a full dump of your endpoint data recorder. If the investigator needs to add comments, like, certainly any sort of case notes, we can do that here. Also, the AI chatbot, we can ask the AI chatbot to generate a summary. So, that's something that's built in. Again, sometimes that can really save our analysts some time. Just supply that summary to the powers that be while moving on to investigate and make sure it gets cleared out and actions are taken. So we can see attack chain analysis, key observations, user intent. It looks like an attacker was attempting to execute arbitrary code, and then the remediation steps that are recommended. You can isolate the affected host. Yep, number one. So, and we mentioned that anything that matches a MITRE attack tactic or technique really does need to be investigated. And what I didn't mention is that each of these, everything that is all of this data that can be enriched is enriched to every possible degree. So if we have the technique, we can actually click on the technique name and it will take us directly to that write-up on the MITRE website. So this can be really helpful, especially for newer investigators that don't have every single technique memorized, to come in and see now which attackers are typically seen using this. Oh my gosh, it's these folks. Yep, we had some suspicious activity from APT19 just last week. I think they are focusing on us and targeting their attacks towards us. Incident visualization. This is one of the most popular features for the investigators. This was something I was there very early on when they were reaching out to analysts, and Symantec was getting input on the design. So it is expandable. There's a lot of detail that can be viewed for every item involved in the incident. Again, in the interest of time, I won't go too much into this, but sometimes, of course, the graph can be very, very large and complicated. So you can kind of zoom out or zoom in. You can kind of move it around to make it easier to see. You can also take a quick screenshot that's downloadable to your local system, because remember, this is all generated from the cloud with this little camera icon. And if you go farther down, you can do play to see the actual timeline of those particular events executing. Of course, that would be a little bit better if I did it up here. So we can see, like, starting from this point in time, and the little orange arrow means that it's executing with elevated privilege. We can see basically the progression, what happened and when. and the details about, like in this case, I clicked on the CLI 02, my client 2 lab system, and it gives information about the logged on user, operating system, and so forth. So again, lots and lots of information. If you expand a caret, you can go into great detail. If you want to add columns to this top level view, notice that only 4 are selected by default. You have 459 fields that may potentially have relevant data. I guarantee none of them have all 459 filled, but right. But you can have a quicker way of seeing important information. So one of my favorite techniques, I'm just going to show you this one quick one because I promised, again, in the interest of time, but let's see here. Let's go one of these suspicious PowerShell, right? And that was marked as the triggering event. That's that T. So what we can do is, as we drill down into, sorry, lots of scrolls here. Close that. Look at a little bit more. As we're scrolling down, we can see, I can say collapse all sections, make it faster for me to navigate to what I'm interested in. But I can see the event, right? That was a file detection. I can see the file information. So this particular file was PowerShell exe. And I can see, actually, oh, go back to, that's what I love about live demos. Go to this one here, the suspicious PowerShell. And again, from this, just the scroll bar, you can see there's a lot of detail in here. But the actor file path, because sometimes something might be called PowerShell, but it's not actually running in the system directory. This one is. And then the command line. This tends to be one of the most important thing investigators look for right away. And you can actually add it as a column. Remember, there's 4 columns selected automatically, so it's as easy as just, again, you hover the mouse, interesting icons will pop up, and then you can click that to add that column. So now if I collapse all of these items and go back to the original view, I can actually see the full command line for each of these. You also can export. So what some people like to do is keep track of their investigations by exporting CSV. This can be really handy. And when you select to export, you can say, I just want to export the columns that I've already highlighted, that I've selected, or export everything so that I can, be confident I didn't miss any details if I need to come back to it. If you want to focus just on the triggering events, you can do that, or all the rest of the all events that are not the trigger events, those are called the correlation events. So that was a kind of, again, a quick view of just looking at the details of a specific incident. You have the ability to actually create your own incident rules. This is something that people asked for years with the Symantec Advanced Threat Protection product, and it was so great when this capability got added. So it's very exciting. So if you have been in this for quite some time, your investigators may want to make their own incident rules. Again, sorry, interest of time, but that was the endpoint detection and response. One of the things I wanted to show you was something seriously cool, seriously simple, and a huge amount of protection, and that is the default anti-malware policy. This is brilliant. I cannot overstate this. So out of the box, Symantec's been working on file reputation for decades, much longer than any competitor. So Symantec started it. Other endpoint security folks have picked up on it over the years. But file reputation. So if files have been seen for a long time and they have not changed, right? They have a digital signature. They're well known. They've not been seen to do anything bad. Then they're they're at this level of 5 of, yeah, they're probably fine. We've never seen them do anything bad. Or they could even be trusted because they were signed, they're legitimate Microsoft applications or Symantec signed applications and so forth. On the opposite is level 1. File reputation is extremely bad. It's been seen before, and it's been seen to do really terrible things. Okay, so that's, that would be the worst reputation. And so then what you have is the rest that's in between. And so what's brilliant about this is that the out-of-the-box settings are block anything that's at this kind of dark gray. So it's at level 2. It's not, it's not known to be super, super evil and bad like, level 1, but it's not great. It's done some suspicious things. So this policy out of the box is going to block anything that's 2 or worse. But it's going to keep an eye on the rest of the gray, the middle gray and the light gray, just because there's less data. Maybe they're newer. They haven't really had enough prevalence to build a good reputation. But there's they came from suspicious, maybe certain websites that have provided suspicious and bad things in the past. So they could be at the level 3 or level 4. So out of the box, SES is going to log those and keep an eye on them. And then you'll be able to see it and go, oh gosh, yeah, that shouldn't be in our environment at all. So at some point, once you've learned the environment and you said, oh yeah, gosh, yeah, that's our remote access tool. And I know it looks like it, it doesn't have the greatest reputation because it has been used in certain attacks. It's not that poor tool's fault, but there could be a reason why it's at level 4. You could put an exception, or even level 3, you could put an exception for that tool and then come back into this policy later on and say, yep, I'm going to start locking things down even more. I'm going to change the blocking to 3 or even 4. If I'm certain that I've got exceptions in place for all of my legitimate business tools, then I'm going to block anything that's of an unknown or gray and proceedingly darker gray reputation. And it's that easy. So out of the box, huge protection and visibility with very minimal impact. And again, you can configure scheduled scans and all that as well. So that was my intention. I wanted to cover some core capabilities, try to give you a sense of the out-of-the-box protections that are in place. This, I would say, anti-malware and the intrusion prevention policies with thousands of signatures, they just install. They just work. They're just brilliant. So huge protection with minimal setup and minimal interaction with humans, if unless you need or want to tailor it for some reason. All right, well, that's what I wanted to share with you today. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to attempt to answer them at this point.
While we wait for the questions to be, asked here, I want to thank you, Sherry, for such a wonderful presentation of the capabilities of endpoint protection. And I also want to thank all the participants for spending a good 1 hour with us today. And I also want to thank our, our partners here, Carasoft, who graciously helped us with setting up this webinar for all of you. The bad actors are not stopping. They are really going after your data, your enterprise all the time. The call for action is to really review your endpoint protection, because as we saw from Sherry's initial slide, that's where the entry point for majority of the attacks come from. Our website URL is located here, and what we can ask of you is to engage with us. Please provide us an opportunity to earn your trust and help you with your cyber defense. And we will be posting this recording in our YouTube channel shortly. So please, if you have any questions at this point, please let us know how we can assist you. If there are no other questions, really, again, thank you so much for all your time today.